Hey everyone. I first want to apologize for not being able to be in person to present my seminar, and I secondly want to make an even bigger apology for not being there to listen to all your seminars. I appreciate and value everyone who took their time to learn and then go out in the community and highlight accessibility issues in our environment. Today, I'll be briefly describing my experience at assessing the level of accessibility at the Fresh Tea Shop and the local area around Main Street where the Fresh Tea Shop is located. First, I'll begin with the parking in the local area. We'll move into walking to the shop from parking, then accessing the actual store itself. Finally, I'll wrap it up with some final thoughts. So, to begin, in the first picture, you'll see an accessible parking space in a sunset scene. There are trees in the background with a blue sky. On the left of the accessible parking space, there's a very steep cut curb. After you proceed up the cut curb in the middle of the sidewalk, there is a thick wooden telephone pole. Already, the steepness of the cut sidewalk is a mobility issue, but to add another barrier 5 feet in front of it is making the sidewalk completely useless for some people. Jay Demolge, when speaking on universal design, said, "Appropriate size and space is provided for approach, reach, manipulation, and use regardless of a user's body size, posture, or mobility." Clearly, the cut curb and pole are the complete opposite of what universal design is all about. In the next picture, you'll see 3 accessible parking spaces, one designed to accommodate vans. It is a tad bit wider than the other 2. In the background, on the left, is 2 accessible gray porta potties. There's some trees with some sunlight on them, also in the background, and a community splash pad and a community center on the right-hand side of the picture. I actually love the accessible porta potties. They're pretty gross like any other porta potty, but they're very wide and accommodating. I didn't have much to nitpick on, as the town does follow the rules from the amount of the accessible spaces per overall spots. So it's 7 accessible spaces per 167 to 250 spaces. The wider spot for vans is considered a type A space, and the other smaller accessible spots are classified as a type B space. So there has to be 3 type A and 4 type B spots per 167 to 250 spaces. My only feeling here was, sure, it meets the code, but is it really enough accessible spaces? Now, after parking, you gotta walk to the store. There are 3 possible routes. I highlighted 2 of the closest ones in my essay because they're closest to the accessible spaces. And this aids to my argument of the problem. The problem being that routes closest to the accessible spaces are the least accessible routes. And of course, the most accessible route that I'm not showing is the furthest away from the accessible spots. So another slap in the face if you have an accessibility issue. In my first image of the route, you can see a pinkish interlocked road with a steep incline in the middle of 2 bricked buildings, one red and one brown, creating an alleyway look. The interlocked road does have a sidewalk on the hand side and provides a railing to hold on to. The road portion of the alleyway is closed off and to provide patio seating for the local restaurant. Not only is the incline steep, but it's been narrowed down because the municipality created patio seating for that restaurant. It almost feels like a catch-22. You're trying to help local businesses by providing them outdoor seating, but you're hurting others who may not be able to even make it to the restaurant through that route anyways. My next image is a regular paved route in between a tan building and a brown brick building. There are 2 sidewalks on both sides of the road that are up in a slight incline, less than the last photo due to the length of the street, but still an incline. Both sidewalks have railings on both sides that are on the building side, not the road side. The background is mainly just a blue sky with a truck taking a turn onto the street. 2/3 of this route to the Fresh Tea Shop are steep, posing a problem for someone using a wheelchair, using crutches or a cane, dealing with fatigue issues, mobility issues, or just an accessibility issue in general. I read an article about an old Italian city evening out steep and uneven surfaces for better accessibility in the city. Prato the author of the article, chalks up a lot of these environmental barriers and uneven surfaces and slopes to straight ignorance of the issue. But if they can even out surfaces and fix all of that in a city that's over 2,000 years old, why can't they do it in a town only a little over 200 years old? My next photo is just an angle to show the door and steps leading into the fresh tea shop. In this photo, you can see a sidewalk with interlocking on the left side, and the sidewalk narrows where the steps, the two small concrete steps leading up to the door to the fresh tea shop are. There's a light pole, black light pole with Canada flags hanging in the background close to the store. Switching photos to a more clear view of the front door. This photo just shows the two concrete steps leading to the black front door with a window with a telephone number and a schedule. There is also no railings. The concrete appears to be a tad bit wet with no grip installed on them. The door is also very heavy from personal experience. And the kicker is this is the only entrance in. So if you have an accessibility issue that doesn't allow for you to climb stairs, you literally can't go into this store. No ramp, no lift, no in for some people. In my last photo, it's just a set of black and brown stairs with railings and a nice wood flooring and some blue pictures on the ground that indicate where to stand after ordering your drink. In this part of the essay, I argued what it would be like to be employed in this store. I assumed that in the essay they would be employed as someone viewed without an accessibility issue. And I argued that in their situation, what if they had a permanent or temporary accessibility issue after being hired? First of all, getting into the store might be a difficult issue for them. So serving drinks to customers to walk up and down the stairs, if they could even get in to do their job in the first place. Even using the bathroom is up the stairs as well. If you want to take a break and sit down, you also would have to go up the stairs as an employee. There's no seating in the bottom area. And all of this would just induce fatigue and potentially could put your job in danger and cause stress in your life. So recommendations, hopefully some more accessible parking spaces, larger ones, paving uneven and evening out steep surfaces to be more accessible, ramps, lift, railings. The good news is there's some funding going into the town, and hopefully the fresh tea shop applies for it and uses it. Unfortunately, some statistics are only about 13% of the street is accessible for everybody. So something that they're working on. And thank you so much for listening to my seminar.